So if I go back on over here, how can I combine these two things together so I can see both the number and the letter? So let's just say this is going to be number and then enter and letter. Number and letter. So then I'll make this black and white. Home tab, font group, we'll make this black and white, and then we'll center it. So I can do a cool formula to do this. I can just say this equals that A, but I want it to be not adding anything but a text formula. The way you do text is I say and. I think of the and sign as a not because I'm tying two things together. And because I'm not typing text, I don't need any quotes. I could just say and that, what's in that cell, and boom. So that gives us a 1A. So I'm going to call that note 1 is what I think of it as, but they can call it a 1A. If I copy this down, all the way down, let's just copy it here, keep the system the same. And so now I've got this, now I've got it a 1, which you can call an A if you want, and then a 2 is I would call it an AB, meaning it's a small AB, which means it's either an A sharp or B flat, whatever. And then you got a 3 is a B, a 4 is a C. Now note that you could make the argument that you should number it like this at 0 if you're a computer programmer or something like that, because when you think of a circular system, you would like the steps to be 12 steps. I'm going to start with A. I don't see any, I haven't run into any problems. I've worked this all the way through on my fretboard logic to make this and make all the intervals. I'm going to make a lot of changes. I'm not a computer programmer, although I'm an accountant and I've kind of worked with this stuff. So I don't, like, if you see a problem and you think that you should have this as 0, you know, maybe that's the case. I don't know. But to me, I feel like this works because people are going to start their numbering system naturally if they're not a computer program at A. And I don't really see an off by 1 issue with what I've done thus far. I will think about the 0 problem as an issue when we get into the scales. That's really where I think the problem comes up. You could do a numbering system making this 1 or 0, or you could base it on the C as either 1 or 0, which are logical things to do because C seems to be the center point of everything being built off of it. You would think they would have made the C the A and started from there because it's kind of arbitrary. I don't know why they didn't do that. But to me, I think it's just natural. It's you're trying to start a numbering system and remember it to start with the 1 equals the A. Obviously, it gets thrown off as soon as you go to 2 because I can't make it 1.5. That messes up the whole system. Although that, you know, that would be doing the same thing that they did when they made it off of the key of C, and then you have these 0.5s. I want all whole numbers. So that means you would think a B would be a 2, but it ends up being a 3, right? So it is what it is. We have to just be able to memorize the numbers and then code switch between the numbers and the letters. All right, so that's just the way it is. That's where we're at these days. And so we're gonna say, all right, let's make this blue bordered, blue and bordered. And then this is I'm gonna copy this one this side, and then I gotta move this down again. Dude, I told you to stay out of my way when I'm working. I'm gonna copy this down. All right. All right. All right. So you don't have to get angry. So now we can put the same thing in a circle. So we're running long on time. So let me do this fairly fast. I'm gonna make this smaller. And then let's say I go out here to L. Now this gets a little wonky. I'm just gonna try to make this in a circle. I'm gonna put the top of the circle be C because that's the key that we're kind of in. So I'm gonna say this is gonna be a C. I'm just gonna say that equals the C. And then I'm gonna go out to, let's say, an O area. And then O4. Let's try that. And make this, now normally I'm kind of cheating. I'm looking at my cheat sheet over here, but you could, and this should be the next one, which should be CD, 5CD, and then I'm going to Q6. Okay, and this is going to be equal to the D, and then I'm going to let's make all of these a little smaller. I'm going to go from Q over to G, and I'm going to make these tighter. something like that so we can see everything. Okay, and then I'm going to go here, and this will be the DE, and then I'm going to go down to 11, P11. P11 is going to equal the E, and then I'm going to go down to N13 is going to equal the F, and then we're going to go down to L15 is going to equal the note 10 FG, and then we're going to go back up to J13. J13 sounds like a gang or something. It's going to be in the G. And then I'm going to go up to H11 is going to be the G sharp. And then it's going to go around to A now, and we're going to go back up top to A, or we could go to this A down here. We're going to go up top, and I'm going to go, so now we're on G8. G8 is going to equal A, and then I'm going to go to G6 is going to equal AB, note 2, AB, and then we're going to go to I4 is going to equal B, and then it goes back up to C. So hopefully I got that right. So then I'm just going to put a border around these. Let's just border these. And put some borders around these bad doggies. Let's make this a little smaller so I can see the whole circle, even though it's a little tight. All right, so we're going to put a border around this. I could hold down Control, not Shift, and I can select more than one at a time. So then I could make like these. I'm going to make this orange just so you can see the pattern. I'm skipping every other note. This is the key of C. We'll talk about this formula later. Whole step, and then half step, and then whole step, and then whole step, and then whole step. So notice what they did is they started with these orange notes before they plugged in the other notes, right? So, but you could do that same pattern from any other position. There's nothing special about the key of C, right? That's just the way that happened to work out. That's how they constructed the piano, right? So the same thing. So you could do that linearly here, right? This would go here. That's why the sharps and flats give us this like check figure from an accounting standpoint, an internal control that we're getting the pattern right. Whole, whole, half, whole, and then we could go down here to whole. I'm going to make it a different color down here. I'll make it this color, and then half goes back home, right? And then it would repeat down here again, whole, whole. Well, hold on a sec. Control Z, whole, and then half, and then whole, right? And then this A also repeats up here. So let's make this the dark orange. Do it. So you could think it linearly like this, right? It goes from here, whole, whole, half, whole, which you could go down here or around in a circle, and then whole, half, back home, right? Or you could see it in a circle this way, whole, whole, half, whole, 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 half. Now again, we'll get into that later. I just want to point it out now just to show you there's nothing really special about these notes. There's nothing really better or worse about a sharp or a flat. It just happened to work out in the key that they happened to pick in the key of C. You could do it, again, you could start on any other key that could have ended up being the one that everybody basically worked in. So that's the general idea that we want to get. So, but remember, when you remember these notes, we're going to assign them back on over to the fretboard over here, but that's not the thing that's really going to unlock the fretboard. It's the nodes. Those are the patterns. You don't want the node numbers to change. You want the node numbers to stay the same. I want to see everything from the nodal standpoint, because that is transferable. Everything is transferable. All right, that's the key.